day 3 of the Founders Peak. It's a really hard act to follow, but I will just share a bit about my own personal journey. As a child, I was told, study hard, get good grades, go to a good law school, and get a respectable paying job, high-paying job. And I'm sure many of you can resonate with that thinking. And so I did exactly that. I studied hard, I went to a good law school, and I became a lawyer at a major Wall Street law firm. My parents grew up in China during the Mao era, and they sacrificed everything in 1985 so that they could give us a better life. And it sounds cliche, but when they left us, me and my sister, there was no idea of when we would see them again, and it would be another 3 years before we would actually see them. And so everything I do today, I am reminded of the sacrifices that my parents made. But conforming and fitting in was all that I wanted to do as a child of immigrant parents growing up in Midwest America. And so when I decided to start my own business with my husband, of all people, and leave my big paying job, it came as a huge, huge shock to everyone. Entrepreneurship was not a word which existed in my family's vocabulary. And so it seems quite ironic that one of my favorite quotes is by Ralph Waldo Emerson. Do not go where the path may lead, go instead where there's no path, and make a trail. And so for someone who actually didn't think I had it to be an entrepreneur, where I am going and what I'm doing today is far from the well-trodden path. In fact, there is no path where we're building in Web3. Pioneering in a new industry is very challenging, as you've heard. There are often no precedents, no one to turn to for advice, no one to copy. And so that road can be very lonely sometimes. And I realized what had driven me in the past was mostly fear. Fear of failing my parents, fear of failing our investors, fear of failing as a parent and as a spouse. One of the greatest fears I had as an entrepreneur was the fear of losing my identity. I was no longer attached to a prominent school or renowned law firm. No one knew who Chen was. I was just another startup founder trying to pitch an idea. But I would constantly remind myself of that purpose, that this was the beginning of building my own path instead of taking a path that was expected of me. And so today, I'm driven by that purpose. As a first-time founder, everything is a first and magnified. From reviewing that first P&L, and remember, lawyers hate numbers and accounting, to that first time we took money from outside investors and realizing, wow, this is becoming real. And that first rejection, followed by another and another and another. And the rejections were really hard because it made me doubt myself, my capabilities, and it hit home especially hard because of my upbringing in a very traditional Chinese family where we're taught to save face, never show our vulnerabilities, and never show our failures. And on those days when I would think about potentially going back to a big corporate stable job, I didn't share those thoughts with anyone. I trudged on, driven by the inefficiencies that I witnessed as a lawyer in a law firm, and I knew then that the system was broken. And whenever there is an inefficiency, there is a disruption opportunity. And seeing that opportunity, my husband and I, who's in the audience, founded InvestaX in 2015, one of the first crowdfunding platforms in Singapore. We wanted to bring more technology to democratize access, bring more technology-driven investments to the market. But in 2012, I had heard about Bitcoin. It wasn't until 2017 that I actually went all in deep down the web3 rabbit hole. In all my spare moment, I would read up on the technology. I would go to the numerous crypto conferences around the world. I would study all of the innovative projects and the potential use cases coming out of the space. And there was no way for me to really validate this, but my gut was telling me that blockchain and smart contracts would be game-changing. And I firmly believe today that there'll be some great companies that emerge out of Web3, just like the dot-com era. Tokenization was what we thought as the next generation of crowdfunding and online investment. And so in 2019, we made a strategic decision to move away from paper-based securities to only offering tokenized assets. Now, pivoting may be seen as a sign of failure, but it's also a sign of adaptability. And the greatest advantage of a startup is the ability to adapt quickly and be nimble. Every startup, small or big, every company needs to evolve and remain relevant. A generation ago, the Kodak moment meant something worth saving and savoring. Today, it serves as a reminder for companies not to be blinded by their own success and forget to continue to innovate. As a company, we didn't want to have that Kodak moment. And we didn't want to stay the same when we saw so many innovations being built on the foundations of blockchain. But it's not easy pivoting, especially because we pivoted before finding a product market fit. So we sacrificed revenues while we built out the platform and waiting for the industry to catch up. This is the reverse of what most founders and advisors would tell you to do. But when we got accepted into the MAS sandbox, which is reserved for companies testing innovative technologies in a controlled environment, and received an MAS FinTech grant to tokenize the new Singapore fund structure in a project called EVCC, it reinvigorated our team and gave us the affirmation that we needed, that we were going down the right path. Now, with numerous projects under our belt and proposals going out almost on a daily basis, we finally feel like the industry is catching up. Security tokens are touted as being the solution to provide liquidity for illiquid assets. But just because you tokenize an asset doesn't mean there'll be automatic liquidity. And we still felt like there was a key security token infrastructure that was missing, so we had to build our solution out of necessity. And because I wasn't busy enough running one startup, I co-founded a sister platform called IXSwap. Again, being a first allows anyone who launches a security token to create a crowdsourced liquidity solution. Now, when I was asked to speak here, I questioned whether I belonged on the stage. I was a first-time founder, and I didn't know if I had achieved enough to share my story. But I think we all know 90% of startups fail. And the fact that I'm here today still, out of sheer grit, determination, and that thirst for a mission and yearning for a quest is why I stand here before you today. That quest and purpose has been ingrained in all of us from the beginning of time as voyagers, inventors, and explorers. As a company, we've come a long way. I'm proud to say that we're thought of as one of the pioneers and thought leaders in this whole industry. And we're at the forefront of creating something new, something that's never been done before, paving a path, and leaving our own precedents with some of the world's first projects. So what I want to say is that as a startup, I know that it's going to take a lot more than that big potential exit to keep us all going. And as a web3 founder, I've realized that you have to actually really love what you do. You build something that people want, but at the same time, stay humble and realistic to yourself. And hopefully the message is very clear today. Despite all of the challenges, the 16-hour days, 7 days a week, and all of the gray hairs to go along with that, I would do this all over again. Because it's about the journey and the profound sense of purpose in building something new, in building a team, in innovating, in learning, and doing something exciting each and every day that may have an impact and potentially leave a legacy. Thanks for listening to my story down the rabbit hole.